Hey guys, it's Liz from Blue and Hazel and welcome to my homeschool channel. If you're new here, I have a third grader, second grader, kindergartner, and an almost 2-year-old, and this is our 4th year homeschooling. So in today's video, I want to compare the America's Story 1, 2, and 3 by Masterbooks with the Gather Round U.S. History series. They have actually 6 books that they've made for their U.S. History series. So we have done America's Story 1, and I really liked it. I don't really know why we switched over, other than I kind of just got lured by the beautifulness of Gather Round, and I'd used one of their units before, which was really fun, and so I thought, oh, I just want to try this. They do stuff really well. I think I'll just try it. We have made it through 3 of the U.S. histories from Gather Round. So we've done U.S. History 1, U.S. History 2, U.S. History 3 this year, and that really took us the full year. And then I was planning to do the 4th and the 5th, and probably not the 6th, because it was going to be like kind of a controversial book on like current events, and I just am not really interested in doing that with my kids. But so I was thinking I would use probably 5 of the 6, but I've actually made the decision to say goodbye to Gather Round History, and I am going to go back to America's Story because I just like it better. I don't know, it's hard to put my finger on it, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in this video when you see some similarities and differences, but just something kind of kept pulling me back to the simplicity of this one. And let's dig in to see what's similar, what's different, and you might have a better idea of why I've been pulled to go back to America's Story. So like I mentioned, this has 3 books that you will buy, and each one of these books is going to be around $35, $40. I can't remember, for the physical book. And it's just this book, not the teacher's guide book, which is actually not a teacher's guide. It is a student book for like consumable pages that the kids like write answers in and do like homework in and stuff. And so I have not bought the teacher's guide with those student pages because I don't want anything like that. We already do plenty of other writing in our home, and I just don't want to add anything like that to our homeschool. So we just use this as a read aloud. We do narration to have them repeat, you know, what they're learning. There are narration breaks in here as a reminder, which is really nice. Now the Gather Round has 6 books. Each one of these, if you buy the digital version, is $40. So if you bought all 6 of the digital versions, you're going to spend $240, right? And then you're gonna have to spend the money on the paper and ink to print them. I can see why they're more expensive. It comes with a lot more supplemental stuff. The next thing that I wanted to point out that's similar in both of these is that they're both really conversation based. And so I like that about both of them. It's not textbooky, really. It feels like, you know, you're just reading this script to your kids that's meant to be talking to your kids. And it just feels very conversational, both of them do. I think America's Story is more conversational towards younger kids, which is easier to read. The Gather Round curriculum is like still conversational, but a lot more like all over the place. It feels like to me, there's just a lot more like kind of stuff added in, or like I'm constantly skimming it and scanning it to try to see what I can cut out to make it shorter, because I feel like it's just too much. And that I don't always want to go off on all of the tangents on the page and, you know, activity break this, and you look up this Bible verse and talk about this and things like that. So there's a lot of these like little bubble, you know, extra conversations that you can have if you want, but it's just a little bit much for me. The next thing I wanted to mention, and this is a major reason why I think I'm switching curriculums, is that Gather Round is just so much more wordy than the Masterbooks one. It's a style thing, and so, you know, that's part of it, but also the Gather Round is made to be read to your entire family, you know, ages K all the way up through high schoolers, and it's supposed to be this family style study where you're reading this, and then after you're done reading it, the kids disperse and do their student notebooks. And we did the student notebooks for U.S. History 1, and then I decided to scrap it. you know, there were some coloring pages the kids liked to do. It wasn't like too hard, but it just felt like, you know, answer this question about what you just read, connect this line to this picture of what makes sense of what you just read. So it was slight bit of busy work for us, and then also we're getting handwriting in other areas of our homeschool, and so I just prefer to have less worksheets personally, and that was one way that we could kind of scrap the worksheet aspect of it and just simplify and use it as a read aloud. And so I kind of understand though that if you have, you know, middle schoolers and high schoolers learning your history with you, that you've got to have a little beefier than and more thought-provoking maybe than if you are teaching a third grader. You know, I feel more drawn to the less wordiness of Masterbooks just because it is easier to read. I don't know, it's just more succinct, and I enjoy reading it better. It's more readable. Whereas with this curriculum, there's a lot of great information in there, but I just feel like I'm constantly trying to figure what I can skip over to shorten it. We've also dealt with that by doing half lessons, which does help. So just keep that in mind. Now, the next thing that I wanted to point out is that Masterbooks does not come with any book lists. You would have to be proactive about like YouTubing or Googling like living books for the Revolutionary War, like picture books that have to do with the Oregon Trail. I don't think that'd be super hard, but the convenient thing is that it's included in the Gather Round. And I'll show you an example here. All of these books, their authors for pre-readers, early elementary, upper elementary, and middle school. And then you have high school on the other page, on the back side. America's Story does not have a bunch of activities for you to do included. And so in the teacher's guide, which I don't own, which are those student workbooks, like I said, the consumable worksheets, there might be some activities in there. And so you could look at their online example they have on their website, but I'm not sure what's included in that. But I know that in here, there's no extra, like, you know, do this hands-on activity to reinforce this cool history time period. Whereas in the Gather Round, like every single lesson has a suggested optional activity that you can do. For example, make a Civil War style tent. You can look at pictures online or book for reference. If you live near trees, try to find 2 long sticks with a Y and 1 long stick that you can put across the top pole. Use a sheet or plastic sheeting to drape over the pole in the middle and secure the ends with logs or rocks on either side, forming a tent shape. This one says, put a first aid kit together as a family. Sew a drawstring backpack or book bag using a few simple items. If you want to be more hands-on, you've got some resources and ideas there. I have to admit we haven't used any of these ideas, and I do kind of regret that for the sake of my kids, mainly because it's so fun to do that, but it's just been you know, a really big adjustment year for me. And we have, for the first year ever, we're having 3 kids homeschooled, and I've had a toddler who's like a tornado with supplies. And so we've kind of put a pause on a lot of the hands-on stuff and just trying to do the basics that we actually like have to cover. And so I'd like to add some more of those things in, but know that they're there at the Gather Round, and that as far as I know, they're not with Masterbooks. So another thing that is important to note that's similar about them is that they both have a Christian worldview, and they both do talk about that and use Bible references inside and things like that. So there's a different flavor in both books. I think that America's Story personally does it in a more tasteful way for me. It's just less all the time and more, I don't know, just like more how I would talk, I guess, to my kids. And I feel like the Gather Round, a lot of people like that they use a lot of scripture and a lot of like references to situations and comparisons to maybe like things in your own life and how you would have handled something and how God would have asked you to do something and how maybe that compares to the situation in the story. But it's just a lot of it. I appreciate that it's there to help me to think of how to teach history, but I also feel like it's just so much in there that sometimes it just feels like it's a little bit unnatural in our home to, you know, have it crisscross through every single little thing that we're talking about. And so, and they also have in the beginning of every gather around unit. They have an optional prayer that you are welcome to pray with your family. I generally don't pray that prayer because it just isn't quite, it doesn't feel natural to me. It doesn't feel like my words. And we do pray every day during our Bible time with the kids in the morning, but I just feel like it's weird to only start praying like on our history curriculum. To me, that just feels kind of odd. And so we skip that part. One other thing that is included in both curriculums, which is really cool, I've never used, is an audio version of the book. So for Masterbooks, you have America's Story 1, 2, and 3, and each audio is going to be $15. So that would be $45 for all three. Now Gather Around has $15 as well for their audio version, but they have 6 books, and so it's going to be double the cost. So one other thing I wanted to show you that America's Story has in their books at the end of each chapter is like a set of pictures that the kids can look at about stuff they just read. Here is Celebrating Thanksgiving. This one would be Salem, a historic district. That's after talking about the witch trials. And Quakers in America. Some realistic pictures here on what a slave quarters home would have looked like. So I like those visuals. I think those are really helpful, and just to give you kind of a comparison on what that might look like in Gather Around, lots of watercolor, maps, neat like side drawings, but you are not going to get any of those pictures that demonstrate what the time frame looked like. It's mainly just really cute graphics, lots of like watercolor type of stuff. Yep. So for now, the plan for us is to go back to Masterbooks. We'll probably dig into America's Story 2 because we haven't covered everything in that yet. It doesn't perfectly line up with Gather Around, and not all topics that are in one are in the other, but overall, you know, it's a stylistic choice, I think. So it's really hard to know without using both what you would prefer. I don't particularly dislike the Gather Around curriculum. It's just a lot of information, at least with these ages. And there are great things about both of these. It's just, I think I like the simplicity in America's Story. I think I like the read aloud feel to it better. I hope this video was really helpful for you. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and do ask any questions that you have. I will try to get back to you. I will put more curriculum reviews if you want to check out some of our other videos.